Within, a Buddha story, the sorrow of King Suddhodana. Long before Siddhartha became the Buddha, he was born as a prince in the magnificent city of Kapilavastu. His father, King Suddhodana, ruled with wisdom and wealth, ensuring his son had everything he could desire. The young prince lived in luxury, sheltered from the world's suffering. His father feared that Siddhartha might renounce the throne, as it was prophesied, so he surrounded him with beauty, pleasure, and grandeur. Despite all of this, an unexplained emptiness gnawed at Siddhartha's heart. A deep longing for truth, something beyond the royal luxuries, began to arise within him. The four encounters. One day, Siddhartha ventured outside the palace for the first time, accompanied by his charioteer Channa. What he saw changed his life forever. 1. The first encounter, the old man. Siddhartha saw an old man, frail and bent with age. His skin was wrinkled, his steps uncertain. "Channa, what has happened to this man?" Siddhartha asked. Channa replied, "My prince, this is old age. Everyone who lives long enough will become like this." A shadow fell over Siddhartha's heart. "Will this happen to me too?" he asked. "Yes, my prince," Channa said, lowering his head. The second encounter, the sick man. A few days later, he saw a man lying on the ground, writhing in pain. His body was weak, his face pale. Siddhartha asked Channa, "What is wrong with this man?" "He is sick, my prince," Channa said. "Sickness can come to anyone at any time." Siddhartha felt deep sorrow. So no one is safe from suffering? 3. The third encounter, the dead man. Then Siddhartha saw a funeral procession. People wept as they carried a lifeless body. Siddhartha turned to Channa. "Why does this man not move?" "Because he is dead, my prince," Channa said. "Death comes to all without exception." The finality of death struck Siddhartha deeply. He realized that no matter how much pleasure he had, life would end in suffering. 4. The fourth encounter, the monk. Lastly, Siddhartha saw a monk walking serenely. Unlike the others, he was not distressed, but calm and peaceful. "Who is he?" Siddhartha asked. "A monk, my prince. He has renounced the world to seek the truth," Channa explained. Siddhartha was deeply moved. He now understood that no wealth, power, or pleasure could prevent suffering, sickness, or death. The Great Renunciation. That night, while the palace slept, Siddhartha sat alone in his chamber, his heart heavy with realization. He had a wife, a newborn son, and a kingdom awaiting him, yet none of it could fill the void in his soul. He knew he must leave. Silently, he kissed his sleeping wife and son goodbye, then walked out of the palace gates, leaving behind his royal identity. He cut off his hair, exchanged his royal robes for simple clothes, and began his journey as a wandering ascetic, determined to find the ultimate truth. The search for enlightenment. For years, Siddhartha wandered through forests and cities, learning from great sages, practicing severe austerities, and meditating for days without food. He fasted until his body became skeletal, believing that self-mortification would lead to wisdom. But despite all his efforts, true enlightenment eluded him. One day, weakened and near death, he collapsed by the river. A village girl, Sujata, offered him a bowl of rice milk. At first, he hesitated. Was this a betrayal of his path? But as he drank, he felt life returning to him. He realized that neither extreme luxury nor extreme self-denial was the answer. This understanding led him to discover the middle path, a balanced way of living that avoids both indulgence and self-torture. Under the Bodhi tree. Determined to find the truth, Siddhartha sat beneath a great Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya. He vowed, "I shall not rise from this spot until I attain enlightenment." For days, he meditated, facing powerful temptations and illusions created by Mara, the demon of desire. Mara tried to shake his resolve with visions of fear, pleasure, and doubt. But Siddhartha remained unmoved. As dawn broke on the 7th day, a profound realization dawned upon him. He saw the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, the root of all suffering, and the path to liberation. He had awakened. At that moment, Siddhartha became the Buddha, the enlightened one. The first teaching. With newfound wisdom, the Buddha traveled to Sarnath, where he delivered his first sermon to 5 ascetics who had once been his companions. He spoke about the 4 noble truths. 1. Life is suffering, dukkha. 2. Suffering arises from desire and attachment, tanha. 3. There is a way to end suffering, nirvana. 4. The path to end suffering is the eightfold path: right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. This sermon became the foundation of Buddhism, guiding millions toward peace and wisdom. The compassion of the Buddha. For the next 45 years, the Buddha traveled across India, spreading his message of compassion and wisdom. He welcomed people from all walks of life: kings, beggars, warriors, and outcasts. One day, a man named Angulimala, a feared bandit who had killed hundreds, tried to attack the Buddha. But as he chased him, he found himself unable to catch up. Finally, exhausted, Angulimala cried, "Stop, monk." The Buddha turned and said, "I have stopped, Angulimala. It is you who must stop." Angulimala was stunned. "What do you mean?" The Buddha replied, "I have stopped causing harm to others. You must stop your violence too." Tears filled Angulimala's eyes. He fell at the Buddha's feet, renounced his past, and became a monk. Such was the power of the Buddha's compassion. It could turn even the cruelest heart towards kindness. The final journey. At the age of 80, the Buddha sensed his time had come. He gathered his disciples and gave them his final teachings. Everything that arises will pass away. Work diligently for your liberation. Lying beneath two great sal trees in Kushinagar, he entered deep meditation. With one final breath, he attained parinirvana, the final liberation, free from the cycle of rebirth. His disciples wept, but they remembered his teachings. The Buddha was not gone, for his wisdom remained in their hearts. Moral of the story: the Buddha's journey teaches us: 1. Suffering is a part of life, but wisdom can set us free. 2. True peace comes from within, not from wealth or power. 3. Compassion and kindness can transform even the hardest hearts. 4. Balance is the key to happiness. The middle path leads to true fulfillment. 5. We are responsible for our own liberation. Change begins with us. His life reminds us that enlightenment is not found in distant lands, but within ourselves. When we let go of attachment, embrace compassion, and walk the path of wisdom, we too can find the light within.